Philippians 4:11. I thought about this during the week and read up on some things that we're working the workbook and learning about healing, and I really feel it comes down to this too shall pass. Whatever comes our way, we all have ups and downs like every day. And in what I was reading, I've always heard this too shall pass all my life, but I read not only the bad times, but the good times will, because nothing lasts forever. So if something really upsets you, we have the tools here that we practice where we find that peace with God by going inward, by becoming so, listening to what comes through, and also, positive prayer. And also here at Unity, we have many friends. We can always call a friend to comfort us. We've made that aware to everyone. We have so many things available to us here through the church, but also knowing, at home we can let things go, let go and let God. So it's much better to try to bring peace to our lives, because a lot of things are out of our control. So, okay. Now for our 5 basic Unity principles. Unity's 5 basic principles are our guideposts, tested by experience, reminding us how divine presence unfolds through our lives. Now we open the space for anyone who would like to give a personal testimony to the power and grace of our basic principles. You'll find them written in the inside here. Would anybody like to come forward?
So, as some of you know, I've had kind of a turbulent last year was a little bit turbulent in my life, and I decided to just sit back and let go and let God and see where it guides me. And so you said in your service the other day that things don't happen to you, they happen for you. So I opened myself up to that. And so I gave myself to the end of the year to just heal and repair and reflect on what was going on in my life. And said in the new year, I'm going to see what happens. And this wonderful opportunity had opened up for me at the Baldwinsville Public Library. I'm working there as a temporary part-time person, and which works out perfectly for me. But also I believe it was my first night there, I met this young woman. And so during my reflection time last year, I said, okay, I want to do something in the arts. I want to be a full-time musician or work in the theater or something like that. So this young lady that I was introduced at work works in the theater in Syracuse. And she works with the bus and truck companies, shows that come in, and she's introduced me to the person that hires the temporary people to come in and work backstage and work some of those shows. So I'm keeping my prayers and thoughts positive that that's all going to work out for me, and that's the path that God has intended to me to return to.
Something that they maybe had happen this week? Okay, well, I put this back in right. Yeah, there we go. Okay, now for the blessing of the prayers, 𝐎𝐧𝐥𝐢𝐧𝐞 is our prayer chaplain this week.
We bless these prayer requests, knowing that before a prayer is even said, when it's thought, it is answered in the heart of divine truth. We affirm that these prayers are all answered in the right and perfect way, and we hold these prayers and the people who require prayer in our hearts, always, in love, always, in Christ, always. And so it is. Amen.
village, the Silent Unity Service has been holding prayer vigil for over 130 years. You can reach them day or night by calling 1-816-969-2000, and a chaplain will pray with you. At this time, we will bless all prayer intentions and requests and hold your prayer in your heart. Know that it is already answered. And I can add that many times through the years, for years I've called the Unity Prayer Line, and I can tell you there's always a good outcome for every single one, because we pray affirmatively, and I'm just amazed to share that with you. It's always a good outcome. And if you don't want to speak to someone, you can listen to a prayer on that line if you just want to hear an affirmative prayer. So I encourage you to do that for anything. It helps with little things and big things. At this time, our speaker will come forward. Is that Jacob?
Yeah. Get a little music first. What would I do if I knew that I could not fail? And if I believe, would the wind always fill up my sail? How far could I go? What would I achieve? Trusting the hero in me. And if I were brave, I'd walk the razor's edge, where fools and dreamers dare to tread. I'd never lose faith, even when losing my way. What step would I take today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave? What if we're all meant to do what we secretly dream? What would you do if you knew that you could have anything? Like the mighty old sleeps in the heart of a seed, are there miracles in you and me? And if I were brave, I'd walk the razor's edge, where fools and dreamers dare to tread. I'd never lose faith, even when losing my way. What step would I take today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave? If I refuse to listen to the voice of fear, would the voice of courage whisper in my ear? If I were brave, I'd walk the razor's edge, where fools and dreamers dare to tread. I'd never lose faith, even when losing my way. What step would I take today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave?
Go ahead and steal more, since that sounds a little better. faces here that have not been for a while, people that I have not had the chance to meet yet, so delightful when someone is here that reminds us of a place to join with fellow hearts, fellow minds, and to do a little thinking together, a little believing together, with that intention and attention that lets us shape our thoughts, and we know that when we do that, things are different than when we don't. That might sum it up. That might be my thought. Thanks for coming. Well done. Faith is that power that makes real the images held in mind. That's a real basic tenet of our belief here, which is, like last talk, a very challenging idea when you want to bring that into practice time and again. Brumet, in his book, is emphasizing these big promises of new thought. He goes on at length in this chapter about the full spectrum of that power, that full-on promise that by thinking we change the outside world in miraculous ways. He pulls no punches, he goes all the way with it. There are times when I relate to that in my full mystical, pious belief in the transformative power of religion, of God, of spirit, of ego, whatever transcendental idea that I'm willing to play with on that morning. And sometimes it's a lot harder. Sometimes, as far as I get, is to notice, like, well, my attitude's bad today. Maybe that's having an impact on how everything that's happening outside of me is bothering me. There's always somewhere on that spectrum that I fall, unless I'm totally not there for it, which some days is true. It's great to believe that everything's going to work out, that everything is part of a divine order, and even my frustrations and disappointments are somehow part of God's plan. The laughter indicates I'm not alone in finding that thin comfort or finding it inaccessible at times. So the real trick, perhaps, the real delivery of the goods is less about, can I move the mountain, and more about, can I just move myself from the place where it's not working at all to getting somewhere on that spectrum between miracles and just self-care, or whatever you want to conceive of that as. If I can get out of the place where I'm in a hopeless and nihilistic mood into one where I have an open enough heart that I believe things can be different and that things can transform, that might be enough for me. It's certainly enough for me when I'm in a real emergency mode, which is, a desperate day, a hopeless day, that's where it is. But there's so much less distance between my attitude changes how things affect me and I can move mountains with faith. There's less distance between those 2 points, I think, than there is between I'm hopeless and God is not real and everything else. So making that jump is the important part, I think. And unfortunately, I don't have a cheat code for you. I have just another reminder that that is what we are responsible for as spiritual adults. And the good news of that is that you already have the tools you need. Again, that's it. Go forth. Or stay in here, because this is one of our tools, right? To explore it and talk. Brumet points out in his book that we're never not exercising faith. That whatever is happening is an expression of this spiritual power, this divine idea, which cannot be exhausted no matter how many words I pummel you with today. What is realized and manifest out of the realm of possibility, that is the divine power of faith. And by holding our intentions and attentions, that's how it happens. He quotes Elizabeth Sand Turner, one of our unity teachers from the old days, saying that faith is the inner assurance that what we desire already exists in the invisible realm of spirit and can, by the exercise of our faith, become realized and be brought into being. Exercise, like a muscle, like the power of the monk, means strength. This is a good image to work with. You can be in better fit spiritual condition or worse. You can be weaker or stronger. You can be feeling more energized or not. But we know that by practicing, we can get the most out of what we have to work with. It might not be everything we want or think we need, but we can do better or worse at using what we have available today. That, again, is our responsibility. And that, again, is faith as a practice, rather than something that you can get and put in the bank and just always have to rely on. Faith is, of course, emphasized throughout the Gospels as being the one and only thing. Again, that level of just a very high promise. This is going to deliver for you. It's hard to believe. But take heart, your faith has made you well. And similar comments are peppered throughout the scriptures when Jesus is working miracles of healing and of exorcism, another big thing he does. Which makes sense in terms of the demons of fear, which is certainly a problem that I struggle with at times when anxiety, worry, or other flavors of that emotion and state of thinking, fear, grips me. What is fear except faith turned inside out or misaligned? It's putting that spiritual power of faith, that capacity and muscle within us that makes the invisible manifest, it's putting it not in terms of alignment with the Creator, the creative source that brings things into being, but the things which are created. It's these images that I'm coming up with in my mind. My incredible creative power is spinning all sorts of scenarios, and then I start having emotional dialogues with them and interactions with them. They remind me of ones that are already present, and I'm just ready to bring them back out again, so eager to relive those experiences. Apparently, because they keep coming up for me. I think that it's a good way to think of those as being the difference between the Creator and the idols. I think that's what we're pointing to in Exodus when it's talking about that commandment, you shall not make for yourself an idol in the form of anything in heaven above or that's on the earth beneath, that's in the water or that's under the water. Make sure we get everything. You shall not bow down to your idols or serve them. That's the second commandment. They're made by hand. They are created things. They are not the power that creates. It's a very easy misidentification to make, and I think we do it pretty constantly, unless we're paying attention and applying our intention. Coming back to that again. You shall not bow down to them or serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God. Trigger warning, right? Classical Christianity, that can be tough. The unity interpretation of that, I believe this is Fillmore's words, is to rephrase this passage as, I'm an exact lawgiver. A transgression or lapse from my law is always followed by certain effects. This isn't a personality who's punishing you. This is a voice that's describing how the law works. This is how cause and effect functions. If you believe this, this will happen. If you resist or hate me and my law, you set into action destructive mental forces that go on generation after generation. But if you keep my laws and recognize me, I'll show you my love in thousands of ways. Community Bible lessons. And that's that concept of not making your God, not making something that is of the world into your God, making something of your own creation into your God. So whenever you notice that that's what you're doing, you have the option of stopping. That to me is what the practice of faith we're called to do is. And of course, not all of the things that are in our minds, shaping our thoughts, are things that we chose or constructed out of ourselves. They're things that were given to us. There's things from the world that we have to use in thinking about the world. Part of that is because our bodies evolved that way. We see color in this way. We feel hunger. Our bodies have demands. That's part of the experience of being human in this round of Earth's incarnation, in this lifetime. Bear with me, right? Our experience is what it is because of these limits. physiology we have, the biographies that we've had, the families, the life stages that we're in, the moments of history, all of these things offer us sort of a story in progress that we're just kind of joining. These are the effects of other people's thoughts. To me, that's what we're talking about when, I'll visit the iniquities of the children of the fathers in that Old Testament speech. Things have been set in motion. People have used their faith, and the world is manifesting along those lines. And now we're here, and we get to apply our creative power to it. We can't just ignore it. We can't just wish it away. New Thought is not for doing that with. It's for doing the best we can with what is available to us and bringing creativity to it that might not be imagined. Why doesn't faith work in that move a mountain kind of earth-shattering way as it's promised in Scripture, as Jesus reminds us in his dialogues, that everything is possible if you believe, if you have faith? Why can Charles Fillmore remind us that when faith is exercised in deep spiritual consciousness, it finds its right place and under divine law without variation or disappointment to bring results that are seemingly miraculous? Why doesn't that happen all the time, every time? Our teachers in Unity and in New Thought generally, and in Scripture say it does. So our problem is how we think about it. One of those reasons why it doesn't work as a magic wand to change our lives, just to change our thoughts about it, is the gift that although we're responsible for our thoughts and our responses, we aren't fully responsible for the entire world that we've been handed. That there are other powers working to our benefit. That's the piece we get to have. That's the piece that's the hard one to work on, is to see that even in cases of disease and disaster, there is something that's working for us. Maybe not the us that has a certain bill to pay or a standard of living we want to enjoy, or has certain particular earthly goals we want to be able to check off this quarter. But that eternal being that came to earth at this time and this place, and perhaps had a role in choosing the characters of the story that we authored from that divine, spiritual, invisible realm before we became human beings. That claim that we have all the wild spiritual thoughts about reincarnation, destiny, and karma. Great. Fine. It works enough for me to say that that is a more empowering frame. Those are more empowering thoughts to think with than just to assume that this world is mechanical and moving the way that it has to. What I mean is, my practice of faith allows me to transform the way that I work with the outside world. Jesus asks the man at the pool, who has been ill for a long time, 38 years in John chapter 5. Jesus sees the man lying there and knows he's been there a long time and says to him, "Do you want to be made well?" Time isn't the factor for this man's transformation. The sick man's answer indicates that it's his own attitude. "Sir, I have no one to put me in the pool when the water stirred up. And while I'm making my way, someone else steps ahead of me." I'm not trying to knock him. He's got a hard road ahead of him. But I think that this part of Scripture is pointing us to that. Jesus asks, "Do you want to be made well?" And this man's response is a couple of excuses as to why there's a problem. That's his first go-to. That's frequently how I roll. Why is this problem not working? One, I probably haven't prayed about it. I haven't done the things I know can be effective in terms of framing affirmations, framing denials, calling a friend to pray with me about it or counsel about it. There are lots of tools I know I have available that I don't always use. So check. Make sure I'm moving through them. Another possibility is that there is some amount of time that has to take place. Not everything was, blank slate invented by me. This is, without going down that wild road of how much of our life we are truly the authors of, but assuming that there is a certain amount that's just handed to us that then we have to work with. Sometimes that's going to take time. It took a lot of generations for me to have some of the hang-ups that I do. Like, why am I going to heal them right away? Why am I going to cure entire family lines, addictions, psycho-complexes, etc. in one lifetime? There's enough of us who know that that's a hard journey, and that, one, there's huge leaps that can be made. Also, there can be some things that just don't get moved that way. And that a little bit from one generation to the next is like moving a mountain. And that's something that we can affirm and hold ourselves back into when my Lamborghini hasn't manifested yet. But I treat my kids differently than my parents treated me. And that's a miracle. That's unbelievable. That shouldn't happen. And yet it does. As spiritual adults, which is, I affirm what we are here, to choose voluntarily, those of us who are, we're not dragged here Sunday after Sunday. We're not dragged to the breakfast table to do our little daily readings and to do our little journaling, or to call our friends who are spiritual, who can help counsel us when we're in trouble. We do this out of our own free will. We're not beholden to parents, patriarchs, preachers, priests, professors, pundits, politicians, pro athletes, or any personality, period. We should rely on no one else for our spiritual guidance except as we choose. That's, again, that responsibility piece. We decide, we grapple personally and individually, each alone, as to what teachings we listen to and how much attention we pay to them and how much intentionality we apply in bringing them into our lives day by day, moment to moment. No way around it. We encourage one another, we remind one another, and we, cook for one another and clean for one another and call up on people we haven't seen for a while. Take care of each other as best as we can. The tools that we have. And we choose what we believe. Faith, Brumet says, is the ability to see past appearances to the creative source, to know that we are already perfectly whole, that everything in the universe is moving as it should, and that we still have a role to play. We cultivate our awareness to our connection to the states of being that are bigger than us, but they're not wholly outside of us. That's the practice. The image that struck me most in his work, and that I'm going to use as we go into our meditation, is to think of the wind. You cannot see it. It is invisible. It is only by its effects that we know that there is wind. This is the image he brings us for thinking about that power of faith. And so, first, Emily Cady was another person he quoted, and having done some of that, classic community reading myself lately, being impressed with the quality of thought and the quality of scriptural interpretation, because that excites me about coming to a church to read the Bible and say, wow, there's some dynamite in here. Emily Cady's point is that there's blind faith and there's understanding faith, and that both are valid and both are important and they are both connected. And that with blind faith, somebody tells you it can get better. And you say, I'm willing to believe you. I'd like that to be true. That's all I can get to today. in Mark chapter 9, where the man whose son is sick goes to Jesus and says, if you could do anything, take pity on us and help us. And Jesus says, if you could do anything, with quotes and everything, like got scare quotes, that's what I picture. If you can, said Jesus, everything is possible for who believes. Immediately the boy's father exclaimed, I do believe, help my unbelief. If that's all we've got today, or in that moment, that's the difference between 0 and 1, which is a lot different than 1 and 100. Great, let's go to 100. But if we can get from 0 to 1, that's it. Help my unbelief. What a prayer. And as we start with that line understanding, it's like, help my unbelief. I believe, I'm afraid, but I'm willing not to be. I'm disbelieving, but I'm not committed to staying that way. I'm sick right now, Jesus. I can't walk. I can't get in the pool. But I am willing. Thank you for reminding me. I am actually willing to not be sick. I'm willing not to be in the way. I'm willing not to go to my excuses. And instead, maybe I'll try picking up the phone and calling someone who knows that I'm a beautiful child of God and can hold that space for me today, because I'm having a hard time with it. But I've gotten far enough to accept that maybe it's true. I invite you to gather yourself up, as I do. Find that place in your body and in this room that helps you best to get that little moment to crack the door open and let the wind come through. Get a breath of fresh air, knowing that everything that you've been given fits into a bigger picture somewhere. And to believe that that bigger picture is one whose author has your best interests in mind. Maybe not the best interests of your narrow human perspective, but your best interests as a divine being who has come through into earth to live a life of purpose and a struggle and an enjoyment full of attachments and full of the pain that that can bring, full of the complications and confusions of being a human who comes from a family of humans, who's part of a society of people equally confused, suffering, and joyful. It's all a beautiful mess with an intention behind it that comes from God's good. And so we invite now, we welcome, we clear and claim space to invite to us the power and presence of ourselves, unlimited, responding to all that our awareness finds from a place of freedom suffused with love, drawing from that source, from that open door that we have allowed the wind to come in to freshen our stale thinking, to clear away the dust that dims our vision, and makes it difficult at times to believe in the possibility that truth and goodness are the reigning powers and the origin of all of this. times and celebrating the moments of experience, the understanding faith that verifies those true things, that proves to us that we are one. If all we have is that Father's prayer, I do believe, help me overcome my unbelief. That is more than enough. A tool to move mountains. A thin lifeline to an inexhaustible strength. And so we affirm inwardly or aloud, in a whisper or a shout as you feel called. I open my mind to the unlimited power of faith. I open my mind to the unlimited power of faith. I open my mind to the unlimited power of faith. I do believe. Help me overcome my unbelief. And offer our gratitude for this small, still moment and all the rest of the still small moments that we will create in our practice of faith. Amen.
Thank you. That was really beautiful. Thank you, Jacob. And now for our offering. Giving and receiving are one and the same. We encourage you to visit our website to sign up for electronic giving at 𝐕𝐳𝐢𝐧𝐥.org. We will bless the offering. Now we pause and reflect on the abundance of blessings that have freely been given to us. May these offerings, given from the heart, filled with gratitude and compassion, be a testament to our commitment to love and transformation in our faith, in our community, and the wider world. May they be multiplied and lifted as we use our good to create a more harmonious world. Together we affirm divine love as me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. You are my source. dedicated space for prayer in the fellowship hall following service. A private area has been created to provide some seclusion. So if you're interested in prayer, meeting with the prayer chaplain after the service, please head downstairs. As we go forth with this benediction, our prayer for protection, after we say this and have our peace sung, Dr. Steve Weschler is going to speak to us, so please stay after the song. Okay, prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us, we are the light. The love of God enfolds us, we are the love. The power of God protects us, we are the power. The presence of God watches over us, we are the presence. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.
In 1985, and I walked on 8 feet of, 1,200 degree coals, and that was a good bar story, because that really didn't change my life that I walked on fire. But in this workshop, I learned to work on myself. I learned to develop myself. Tony Robbins was talking about using neurolinguistics programming. And I worked on those old stories that kept me from sharing with people, from being with people, from being close to people. And the biggest thing was on the Monday of the seminar called Living Health, I learned that health is between my hand and my mouth. That's where disease comes from. I didn't know that before. Food was about comfort, food was about, almost like addiction. Like, that was what food is about. So I want you to think about, in your life, what are those things that are causing you health, and also maybe causing you ill health? Just think about that. Things that we can let go of. And that it's not easy. I had this huge transformational experience that changed my life literally in one day. It was so powerful. But that's all it takes sometimes, is to get what we're doing to ourselves in the positive and in the negative. So take a moment to think about that. What's one thing that if you had that momentum, it could just change your life. So, at 21 years old, I was stuck in the mud of my life. I was in chiropractic school. I had no idea why. But I met 3 individuals within 2 weekends of my life. I met Tony Robbins, and I did the follow-up. And I met a man named Donald Epstein, a chiropractor. He wrote a book called The 12 Stages of Healing. He's actually Tony Robbins' best friend. I tried to introduce them, and it didn't work out. But it worked. They met. And they're doing great transformational work in the world. But being with Tony and being with Donnie, who again opened me up to the universe. You know, I was born Jewish in Long Island. I had my little comfortable world. Went to summer camp. I mean, I was quite privileged to do all that. But it didn't change my life to do anything for others in the world. So meeting Tony Robbins, meeting Donnie Epstein, and then in 1990, I went to India with my friend Greg Joseph, who, again, changed my life, introduced me to a teacher who I ended up going to India to meet, who taught me about love and service. So think about your life, those mentors in your life, those teachers in your life, who taught you to help others, to serve others. And thank them. Because it's not innate within us. Innate within us is survival a lot of times. But to really reach out, whether it's from your religion, whether it's from a teacher, whether it's from your parents, it takes something to serve others, to reach outside of yourself. And I was not one who did that growing up. It was all about me. I had some of it in summer camp, you know. I learned to do, but it was still all about me. And then I met another teacher who taught me how to actually serve, like on the ground, helping other people, all over the world. Teacher Simon, who was huge in my life. This church here, when I first moved here in 1989, I knew nobody here. And this church was incredibly accepted. You know, I was born Jewish, we didn't really learn about other things. You know, when you're in a certain religion, you don't learn about other things. And this was all-encompassing for me. I served here for about 15 years on the pulpit a lot. And so this is a very memorable view up here. Just started coming back about 2 months ago. Powerful. And then having the good fortune of serving people here in my community. As their chiropractor, as their teacher, has been, see, my shirt says, 60 years of awesome. But it couldn't have been awesome without all the people in my life. I look around, I see patients, but patients who changed my life because they brought a sick relative who no one thought could get any better. You know, people who work for me. I see Rand, Susan, and of course without Susan's husband.
You saved me. I see you saved me. Thank you, Steve.
You know, and so patients who come 10, 20, 30 years, I see them all around. Yesterday, my beloved girlfriend put on a surprise party. I've never had a surprise party in my life, and a few months ago I said that. And we joined together with my kids. My older son just flew out. My best friend and his wife, who I met, how many years ago now? 50? Almost 50 years ago. I met Mike and his wife now. They met in summer camp. And people all over the world. Kate I've known since I've been here. Fred, Marty, new friends. You know, Nancy, Susan, Roger, Sharon, Deborah, Chris, Roseanne. I mean, this is an amazing to be able to share with you and share. And I call this my halfway there party. Patsy knows about halfway there, right? But it's not
TM. I trademarked that.
my
In the
favorite.
videos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thought you talked about that movie.
No, let's not do that.
We laughed so much last night telling all the stories. But I call this my halfway there party because for 40 years, I've been doing personal development work. And I feel like I'm halfway there now. And that there's so much more, we always have to keep an eye on that. Like we think we're grown up, that we've grown enough, that we just coast the rest of the way. But the reason why I'm standing up here is I force isn't the right word, but I put myself in front of things to challenge myself. You know? Last week on ski patrol, I reluctantly skied down the beginner slope because there was a lot of people down there. I could have taken the more challenging slope. It had much better snow. It looked really good. And these people called me over. And there was this woman lying there I saw. And I skied up to her and I almost ran her over because the reason why she fell is there were some lightly covered rocks and mud. And I couldn't stop. And I was heading right towards her. So even in service, sometimes it's a little unmanageable. But I turned right before I hit her, literally, and stopped. And ruined another pair of skis this year on ski patrol. And it was so great. I came up to her. She was in all this pain. And how many of us have come up to someone in pain? Mental, emotional, physical, spiritual pain. And we want to do something for them. But with my training over this past 40 years, I was just being with her because I knew I couldn't help her by myself. Like I couldn't lift her up, I didn't have any drugs to give her. It was just me and this person suffering. And I introduced myself and I asked her name and I said, would you mind just waiting here till we got more help? And she was like, oh my God, thank you. So we just sat there and we talked. And of course with me, I joked with her a little bit. And then we had 4 people who came in on snowmobiles on ice, which are not manageable at all. So everyone is helping as a volunteer in a way that they could. And we moved her down the hill. Even at one time, the sled she was on slid out. But the guy in the snowmobile did nothing. And it just slid back in line. And sometimes all we need to do is be with people. Right? You know? Sometimes doing less is more. Just be with them. It's funny, I've been preparing for this talk in my head at 4 o'clock in the morning for the last 3 days. And I don't think I've even said anything I thought about it. So we got a letter from her husband, who's a ski patrol applicant. And that she just said, oh my God, she was cared for so gently. And that's all we need to do for people. We don't need to fix them. I couldn't fix her. All of us together couldn't fix her, but we treated her with gentleness. So I want you just to imagine that. How could we be more gentle with each other? Not have to fix them, not have to change them. Just be with each other. Let's do that right now. Let's just sit for a minute and just be with each other. You might want to turn your head, look at another person, and just be with them. wonderful letter that how gentle we were with her. And it was funny, so we were there, and again, ski patrol, we have no medication, we have no x-rays or MRIs, all we can do is get people ready for the next level of care. And the next level of care was rough, because they wanted to just fix her, not think about where she was right there. And it was just so wonderful to get that. And I've asked people, and if you've been, again, I'm here to thank you, because I could not do what I've done for 35 years in my practice without you guys, without standing up here and teaching. I couldn't serve into you. So really, this is about thanking you, but I would love to hear from you, not right now, just write it to me. I'd love to hear how I assisted you in changing or transforming your lives. Because all I am here is to assist, not to do. Seems like I'm doing when I work on people, but it's really just unfolded. And I want you to now take a moment and see how you do that for other people. For your kids, for your grandkids, friends, neighbors, in your profession. You could get paid for what you do, and it can still be service. And also, if you're someone who needs service, you're offering someone that. You're giving them the blessing to serve you. And so we can see how we resist that sometimes, getting served by others. Like I said, I had this beautiful surprise birthday party, and I was truly surprised. Went to my favorite restaurant. The hostess walked us a really far away, like, where's our table? I actually said something to her. I said, oh, you're just walking slowly because she's in high heels? And she didn't say a word, she was just walking so slowly. And then a door opens and there's this table with chairs all around it. And I still fully didn't get it until all my friends were hiding in the bathroom. And they came out. Even I can be surprised. So I've been writing a book over the last 2 years that is done, but it has to be, that's the easy part, writing it. It's massaging it into a book. And again, couldn't have done that with all the experiences I had working with people. It's about being pain-free in your life. Now when you hear that, you think, oh, that's not me, I have pain. But yeah, it is. Like, it's about not suffering. I think we do a lot of that in our lives. We identify with our pains, with our illnesses, with our problems, like it's who we are. But even with a pain, or I mean, everybody has one. I got pains. I got problems. If you don't got problems, you're not alive. That's what sometimes life is all about. How to not suffer that. That's where real growth is in life, is how not to suffer your pain, how not to suffer your problems, how not to even identify with them. And one of the favorite things I learned from my teachers, this is not my body, it's just a body. It's not me, it's the body. I call it Stephen. People call it all these other things, sometimes some things that aren't that nice, but this isn't who we are. We're that, and let's take a moment again and just be with each other. Turn your head, be with another person. That's who you really are. That being behind that. So for the next few minutes, we're going to take a time in healing. I'm going to have my friend Fred come up. He's a accomplished pianist, worked at Syracuse University, has traveled all around the world, not entertaining, really giving people an experience. But now his experience, he's brought his healing work together with his music. And it's just a real, Fred and I have known, just a few years we've known each other, but have become very close friends. And I was really just honored when he said he would come and share with people. Look, he's got a new website here. What is it? Soul Symphony Wellness. I'll put it out on my newsletter. But I would love that he'll share with this with people online, people around the world. So let's welcome Fred to Turnpike.
Realize that piano placement is usually on the other side of the stage, but might be good to be able to see. This is the Rachmaninoff Prelude in D major.
So be thankful. Just take a moment right now and just be thankful. Pick something or someone to be thankful. But thankful right now, even if it's something, this relationship was in the past, even if they're not here anymore, be thankful right now for them, for who you are. And bring in gratitude, be grateful. In this moment, and then think of a way to share this with others. Just who you are with others. Just being with them. It's the present of the presence you are. I will welcome all of you. We have some birthday cake and snacks downstairs. I'll even allow people to sing. But thank you all for being here. You've all been a big part of my life.
Thank you.
All right, let's go.
You can finesse me if you want. But don't run into the source. I agree. I'm changing my mind. I'm not taking you. Yes. The universe.
You kind of sign on a little later.
Have you seen these online?
Yeah.
Your mother was there. Maybe we are.
We're that
You can choose.
I had to work that day. My associates.
Love in action. Yeah.
Someone else to say congratulations. Someone else to say
Okay. Next. What time? When do you drive? Okay. Here?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe more.
Oh, yeah. Your shoes.
Probably something you can really
I know. Yeah, that's good. This is yes, I know.
Maybe I started I think for a week.
Yeah. Our grandson's trying to play as a permit. Jim took him out of the elevator. Yeah. Okay, coming down, Chris. Hey, how are you? Happy that Jim.
Yeah, every day, right? How are you? Well, because I mean, I'm just trying.
Yes.
Secretary.
Oh my God, she's in for a tough
Some
week.
people don't get that.
My son.
Hi.
Yeah, the doctor for me is coming Friday.
There you go. See?
Yeah.
And even if you do, I'll be right here in my That's right. Nothing could be fun. Are you excited to be with mine in the Donna? What town? I went home when I was told. Oh, I know what you were.
So I don't know how your kids are going to do their dress. They just want to
Like that.
That one lasted. We had Sweetgrass today last night. I saw your comments.
I've already forgotten that. Oh, there you go. By my grandson. Woohoo!
It's near Regina, South Dakota.
I probably did, yeah.
Alfred. Yeah.
Well, you're doing a good job.
Yeah.
Good to meet you.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you. Coming all the way up the stairs for me.
I know, right? Well, they were easy to come.
Sure.
And your boys surprised you. That's great.
Did you know about this at all?
No?
No, I didn't. I was so surprised. I had no
Oh, I'm glad I didn't know, because I'm not good at keeping surprises. I'm afraid I'm going to slip.
No, I had no idea. It's like, and even Mike's wife, which she's
Yeah.
Mike and I, like, we were standing at the front gate when the new people were coming, and we both, like, walked up and gave her like kind of story and stuff, and that was, I really like
Wow.
told some funny
Mike
stories.
is your friend from the camp.
Yeah, some of them since we were allowed to.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I lost my friend when he was 22 years old. High school. Got, well, that plane he was in service for Germany. And it's still in the EICHTEN.
He was 22?
22.